Tim felt the impact more than heard it. An unsettling thunk reverberated down the handle of his copper hoe as it split the bandit's skull open. The sensation reminded him of splitting a pumpkin. Blood flowed from the wound as the bandit fell, taking the hoe out of Tim's hands. So this was what it felt like to kill another person. Bile rose in his stomach, and he sank to his knees in realization of what he had done. "Farmer!" He heard the fighter cry out, but it seemed so far away. Tears fell from his eyes as he threw up on the dirt, stained red with blood and chunks of brain. The world began to spin, and his strength left him to collapse in a heap next to his vomit. Above him, the fighter was trying to say something, but no words escaped his lips. Darkness crowded his vision. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He wasn't a fighter chasing adventure and glory. He was a simple farmer. Tim's father was called Lucky, though that wasn't his real name. He had struggled all of his life to provide for his family. Allotted a quarter-acre of rock and sand by the local lord, he had built their home from the rocks he found in the field, and had managed to grow a sizable harvest of onions and potatoes in the same year. Tim's mother, Danicia, could stretch the copper like no one else. After the tax, she would take a portion of the harvest to market, and return with enough coin to keep them over the year. She could fish and trap rabbits, so meat was never an issue, and with needle and thread she could turn sackcloth into strong clothes, and hide into boots. Not wanting to burden their son with their own lot in life, Tim's parents scraped together as much copper as they could. For his 14th birthday he was given a nice pair of clothes, a copper hoe, and enough money to escape the life of servitude his parents endured. With a tear in his eye, Tim took it and never looked back. Arriving at the Farmers' Guild the day before, he registered as a free farmer, a farmer with no land looking for work. Free fills were the lowest of the low, but just like an adventurer, he could always find work. Before the sun set, he had an appointment to catch a caravan heading to Amber Bay, and from there he could go anywhere he wished, after he found some work, of course. Tim arrived at the town stables, as the caravan was just starting to hitch their wagons, just as he had hoped. A caravan crew would usually take an hour or two to load up, depending on the size. Merchants, not being known for their strength, would struggle to load their wares, and an enterprising kid could always find a few loose coppers by helping the merchant get underway. A few sore muscles and a few copper coins later, the caravan was loaded, and there wasn't much left to do but wait for the escort to show up. "You ain't heading back into town?" the wagon master asked. "Not this time," Tim replied. "I'm joining the caravan to Amber Bay." The wagon master looked at Tim more thoughtfully. "A copper hoe isn't much of a weapon," he commented. "Do adventurers ever show up this early?" "Hells no! So you're along for the ride then." Tim nodded in reply. "First time?" Tim thought about the question for a moment. It wasn't his first time away from home, but it might be the last time he would see his family. "Last time," Tim replied, sniffling back a tear. The smell of smoke and pungent herbs brought Tim back to his senses. It was dark and the stars were out. How much time had passed since? Tim rolled onto his side to heave again, but nothing came out. Next to him sat the fighter from before, tending a small fire. "Feel better?" he asked. "Is no an acceptable answer?" Tim returned. "Just a little shock. First time he ever killed someone, I'd wager." The wagon master's voice came from behind him, and Tim spun around to see several faces filled with relief. "The first time is always the hardest," the fighter replied, "but it gets easier with time." "I don't want it to get easier," Tim replied. "I just want a little place to call my own and plant some crops." "That's not how the real world works, boy," the fighter replied, turning to face him. "In a perfect world, you might never have to kill a man, but in this world, more is expected." "Did anyone else die?" Tim asked. "Only the bandits, thanks to you," the fighter replied softly. "We took care of the rest of them, but if it wasn't for your quick action, the outcome might not have been so fortunate. You should be proud of yourself." With that, the fighter picked himself up off the ground and placed the copper hoe next to Tim. "I know you just want to be a farmer," he said, "but you'd make a damn good fighter."